and just awareness, I don't know, with food. It's interesting. Like, out of all my siblings, even reflecting back, like, as much I liked candy, are you kidding me? I liked sugary treats, but there was something about me, I think subconsciously, that just knew. Like, so you had a veggie platter out and you had some candy, like, sure, yeah, I'd have some candy, but I would gravitate more towards the veggie platter. What freaking kid does that? You know? That's where I think subconsciously my body knew what it was going to take and just would gravitate to what it took to survive in a way. So I could attribute making it through 100%. God undoubtedly was there seeing me through. But on top of that, like fitness, as hard as it was, especially with these things, like it's also attributed to helping get me through. So as these little bastards are in your brain and literally having these cognitive issues, like of course it's going to affect your memory. So my memory's never been that great. Shoot, certain holidays to this day, like I the actual date, it's like, okay, when is that? And I won't even like, I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll be over there for that, Thanksgiving or even Christmas. And I'll be like, not knowing where that was, and being embarrassed, I wouldn't even ask. I'd just resort to Google or phone or something later. But all sorts of things, and that's what's crazy about memory. You don't know what you don't remember what you don't remember. So like journaling has been huge, and definitely could dive into some pretty eye-opening um, stories. Like one specifically, like I grew up in an era where we pledge of allegiance all the school years, like elementary, junior high, high school. It was like a pledge of allegiance, right? I mean, I could even for some reason remember pretty much the national anthem, but what was it? Within my diagnosis, I was taking down the American flag from in front of the house, and I had it inside the house, and I just had a feeling as I was setting Old Glory, leaning up properly against the wall, not touching the ground, and I just felt like reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and I pledge, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and I was just stuck. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and I was just stuck. I instantly grabbed for my phone, but I kind of realized in that moment, wait a sec, you know this, dude, you freaking know this. And I genuinely stood there 20 plus minutes trying to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and I couldn't get through it. And that was just almost a emotional moment where I knew, like, yeah, things like this isn't normal, right? So I had to look it up. I'm pleased to say I've relearned it and I can recite it. It's an important pledge that we need to integrate back into our schools. But anyway, that's just an example. The impossible feeling of getting out of bed. And it's not just a feeling, it's genuinely like impossible some days, some moments. I'm over 6 years sober now, and it's interesting. The best description I have, considering being young, dumb, building that relationship with alcohol, like the best explanation I can, maybe this brings clarity to some folk out there, maybe not for you non-drinkers, and but it's as though it's like the worst hangover. Like you can't function with that worst hangover. Like that for lack of better words, it's kind of what it was, but it was just nauseum, aches, brain fog, like headache, migraine all at once. Like you get up and it's just like, nope. like you sit up, you take your head off that pillow, you're like, nope, not today. Sometimes your body's just like, not today. But stress, anxiety leading to irritability, I think will drop. That'll tie into mood. But all of this, as you can imagine, leads to chronic depression. You deal with these type of debilitating day to day, seemingly stuck, can't get out of, you're made the issue from family, friends, loved ones, just the world as we know it. Are you kidding me? How does this not lead to depression? But it's more than that, because Lyme, unfortunately, specifically correlates to a lot of actual suicide. So there's something to it that in a way has that additional impact on folk that your typical depression doesn't have, like that stat that Lyme does with the depression, like connected to it. And I believe, because it has multiple layers to it, and one of those layers is how it affects dopamine and serotonin and the lack of production in your own body. And if you think about it, so you're depressed because all these other things, and you're stuck in this like downward spiral, but also your body isn't even producing anything happy, like the good feeling. It's miserable. It's hell on earth in the flesh. This is scary stuff, guys, and it's real. I lived it. So many others lived it, and we'll be having them on. I can't wait, because we need to move the needle forward. This, especially when we start touching on as to how rampant this disease is in life. Are you freaking kidding me? You should be on fire for it too. Anyway, 24/7 ringing in both my ears, also known as tinnitus. I believe I said that right. It is a bugger. In fact, I'm going to turn the air on if you don't mind. One moment. That, in fact, had been bugging me this whole time. I could hear that ringing this whole time. This was muffling things out. So between my own words, it was driving me nuts. And this kind of increasingly got worse as we even started addressing the Lyme and fighting it. So I have to travel now with a fan. I cannot sleep without a fan. If I got locked in a room with no white noise, I'd literally go insane. It's crazy. My heart goes out to anyone that's dealing with that, especially warriors, with the concussions and like the sound, bombs and things of that nature. Oh my, what would you call it? Sensory, like, whatever. We'll just dive into the things. I'm fighting for words here. But my eyes became very sensitive to the light, even to this day. Gotta have these sunglasses on, as much as beneficial as that vitamin D is, and soaking in even the UV rays with your naked eye. At times I've had to be that guy wearing sunglasses even indoors, and I'm not trying to be cool. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't even think because it's too bright. And ears becoming more sensitive to loud noise. I frequently had a loss of balance, like a feeling of vertigo, which is challenging because I've considered myself athletic throughout my whole life, because, like that fitness part we touched on, just being an attributor to keeping me here. But losing a lot of that, and as well as loss of strength / muscle mass, slowly turning that around, which is Pretty exciting stuff. There's hope. Irregular sleep, often hard to fall asleep. It's a big one. I mean, I never felt rested. It didn't matter how much sleep. I could do 10 hours, 12 hours, and you just wake up and just didn't ever feel rested. Never got enough. I don't know how else to explain it. Yeah, more pain, hips. But yeah, the moodiness, irritability, even Lyme rage. Lyme rage is a new one as far as people that have dealt with Lyme. I've personally been talking to that share their whole Lyme rage. Yes, I've done it. Family, friends, strangers. I'm sorry. If you've, for those that have experienced me raging just erratically, highly emotional, just moody. I mean, yeah, granted with Lyme, you have all these other things, but no one wants to be that guy. No one wants to have that impact and drag anyone down, but I guess Lyme rage is a thing, and it's definitely been a thing for me as I reflect back. So I genuinely apologize, and I hope I can make amends with everyone. Yes, even my parents. Well, doctors and clinics. Now, I've wanted to go through Envita because they seem to be on the front lines for so many things. And since I got my latest positive Lyme diagnosis through their clinics specifically, and they were very thorough. I believe, like, I had some pretty substantial testing before them through the other Lyme doctors where I had upwards of 18 vials of blood and things of that nature. But holy moly, 31 vials of blood. Then we went in for another 3 or 4. So extremely thorough. That's a personal record for me. 3 different urine samples, a saliva test, and also a vision test. So it was very thorough. But once I had that Lyme positive diagnosis, they built me out a protocol and an 8-week program. And it was going to be in the tune of $75,000+. And I'm currently in the midst attempting to get that. However, luckily my current regimen is having this amazing, profound effect. And that ties into like my personal journey with God too, where seeking that closeness, he's been miraculously, like, I can't even explain the gifts that have been given as I've sought that out personally. But on the clinical side, it seems to also be having a positive effect, which I'm extremely grateful for. But we won't know without time as to how effective this current regimen is. So I'd love to, obviously, I might just have to sell the house that I'm not even living in. I got to rent out those rooms just to stay afloat. So if I'm not living in this camper, I'm living in another one. Humbling fact. That's how I'm living my life. But I'm grateful for it. Extremely grateful to have a place to lay my head and a roof over it. That it may be a mobile one, sure, it's so great. Anyway, if you want more information and you feel inclined, let's go ahead and plug a GoFundMe. My blessed siblings kicked off for me when I wasn't even in a place of functioning to even start something up like that. Shout out to Ben. But you can go on GoFundMe, and I believe you could just type in James First Lyme, and that'll pop up. But more important than, hey, throwing $1 my way, more important, there's information and social media and information links you could obtain through there that could be an easy way of spreading awareness. So if you could forward that on, oh my gosh, I'd be ever so grateful. That would be huge. But so as far as the doctors and clinics, just ensure they're Lyme literate. Because these other doctors, Western medicine, like if they haven't done additional education, a lot of these other doctors, like it's weird. Western medicine, these doctors that feel entitled as if, oh, all they did was get their MD and they know it all, even if they've been in practice 20, 30 years, but that was all the education they got. They don't know diddly. I mean, some of these Lyme literate doctors, they continue their education. They're continually going to these conferences, and they got their MD, naturopathic, like I can't even, some of the decoration or whatever you would call that, decorated doctor, I don't know, accolades. I mean, but some of the actual documentation, like they're very well educated, and they're going about it in a humble sense. Find yourself a doctor that actually knows, right? And a disclaimer, I suppose if that doctor was ever pro the COVID jab and they're not putting forth like apologies, this and that, like you're wasting your time. It's a doctor that just did what they were told, didn't do their due diligence, and a doctor that isn't effectively looking out for your health and well-being and doing their due diligence, like to me, that's, they're not even fulfilling the very role of a doctor. I don't care if they have doctor before their name. That's just me personally. Anyway, so just look into that. We definitely will make more connections because there seems to be good clinics worldwide. Treatments, man, we covered a lot of that, but IVs seem to help. Hyperbaric oxygen treatment seem to help. Red light therapy, sauna, especially infrared sauna, diet, supplementation, disulfiram, the actual antibiotics, but to an extent. And most of these treatments integrate all these things. I've even heard some treatments, chemo actually being administered to fight Lyme. Some doctors are like, you got to be freaking kidding me. But they're literally trying all sorts of things. That's why we need to up the testing, the treatments. All this happens through awareness. I mean, shoot, we are where cancer was 20, 30 years ago with Lyme. Let me share a fact worthy thinking on. A clinic specifically, and I'll need to talk to them. I'd love to name drop, but anonymity is obviously important. And if they want to come on and share this information, but there's a clinic that originally was based in cancer treatments that onboarded Lyme, and as they got to understand Lyme more and more, they were like curious. How many? Well, let's start testing some of our cancer patients. I'm curious how many of these might actually have Lyme and not know. Well, over the last decade, supposedly 75% of their cancer patients that didn't know they had Lyme tested positive for Lyme. I hope you grasp that. 75% of their cancer patients, they're positive cancer patients. They were curious. They test them for Lyme. Over 75% of them have Lyme. Now you got to understand about cancer could never cause Lyme. Lyme 100% has been attributed undeniably to producing cancer, being an attributor to cancer. This in of itself, this finding, I believe, is phenomenal and needs to be thoroughly researched, because hypothetically, if we could start addressing Lyme more effectively, doesn't this pose the opportunity of potentially eradicating over 75% of the world's current cancer? Can't this potentially prevent future other individuals, futuristically speaking, from even having to deal with cancer if we can address Lyme before the cancer even takes place. Now, even for my dumb brain, this makes sense. Because if you got something that's suppressing your immune system, creating all this havoc, I mean, just the inflammation within your body and suppressing your immune system is enough that you could breathe in a particle that normally your body, no thing, fight it off, no problem. But with the Lyme, now that particle sets root. It's carcinogenic. It now cancer starts running rampant throughout your body because of the Lyme. 75% of their patients that didn't have a positive Lyme diagnosis got their Lyme diagnosis through this one specific clinic. It's unbelievable. Big Pharma wouldn't want things like this. They don't want the root of the issue to be figured out because these diseases are money makers, insane money makers. Ooh, there was another point I wanted to touch on there. Let's think if I can go there in my head real quick. Lyme, cancer. I apologize. Oh, it bugs me. Doesn't that bug you when that happens and you just can't, oh, it was right there, you know? What happens to me more than I'd like to admit, and seemingly more than average. I apologize. So, information. Sourcing's important. Google is limited. DuckDuckGo. I would personally challenge those that are actually curious to look into the book Bitten, because it touches on the origins of Lyme, but also history and things on biowarfare. In fact, on that note, let me play you a clip here. This is a topic and a discussion for another day that I really want to dive into, and I want to bring more receipts. But the book Bitten pretty much indisputably proves and connects Lyme from being created for man, that this isn't a natural disease at all. In fact, and by being created by man, it's a bioweapon. But it's wild. But here, let me play this clip. This is a fairly recent, as I know it, gentleman addressing Congress regarding just this topic. And this is as far as I want to go with it today, and we'll move on.
To offer an amendment to the NDAA to task the Pentagon IG to probe whether ticks were ever weaponized with Lyme disease or any other dangerous pathogen. Our legislation passed the House but died in the Senate. It was told that the IG did not have sufficient capacity or bandwidth to investigate. So tonight, the new Smith-Peterson amendment instead tasks the GAO with that job. For years, Mr. Speaker, books and articles have been written credibly asserting that significant research at Fort Detrick and Plum Island and elsewhere was conducted to turn ticks into bioweapons. In her book, Bitten, The Secret History of Lyme Disease and Biological Weapons, Chris Newby includes interviews with Dr. Willie Bergdorfer, the researcher who was credited with discovering Lyme disease. Turns out that Dr. Bergdorfer was a bioweapons specialist. The interviews, combined with access to Dr. Bergdorfer's files, reveals that he and other bioweapons specialists stuffed ticks with pathogens in a quest to cause disability, disease, and death. Mr. Speaker, with Lyme disease and other tick-borne diseases exploding in the United States, an estimated 300,000 to 427,000 new cases each year, and 10 to 20% of those people with chronic Lyme, Americans have a right to know whether or not any of this is true.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Let's figure that out. My goodness. If you're still with me, thank you for being here. It's wild. Another fun fact in that book, Bitten, it touches on and has stats that it proves more than 1,000 Americans were contracting Lyme each and every day. This is published, I believe, in 97. Start doing the math on that. Millions of Americans. Now, that's not even showing that, I believe, for females that have Lyme and their offspring automatically through the womb and what have you are also gonna contract Lyme. It's just that God-given immune system. That baby's born with a fresh slate, so it doesn't necessarily seem that debilitating out the gate, but down that road. But so Lyme is obviously way bigger issue than we all know, and I think it's being suppressed for a reason, especially if it's man created. I mean, shoot, accountability would suck, right? Anyway, we're thinking about now. I am still in the battle for my life currently in regards to Lyme, and I don't know what the future holds, but I'm excited and I'm so grateful to be where I'm at in this moment. I want those that are struggling with it to know there's hope, there's light, there's Lyme, there's life after Lyme, in Lyme, through Lyme. Let's unite, let's connect. We can do this together. Let's stop being such self-serving, selfish creatures and address and make for a better world. I mean, that's what I want to accomplish with this platform and with stories and just everything. Touch on all these things. And this shouldn't be threatening. I shouldn't feel the need like I did the other day to say I'm not suicidal. Been there, done that. I feel that's a very healthy place to come from. I mean, depression and things of that nature, it's like we're not effectively taught how to talk about. It should be championed. It should be, oh my gosh, thank you for letting me, like, and so we could team around, like, support. But it's like a demonized. People are embarrassed. People feel bad, so they sweep under the rug, and that's just horrific. And it perpetuates it. It can even magnify it. It's not bringing it to the surface and addressing and healing. But so my heart goes out to those that are dealing with it, whether they have a disease or not. Guys, let's get this out there. Let's get the ball rolling. I'm excited. I love you. Thank you for tuning in. Have a blessed day and look forward to next time.